He was taller than anyone the game had ever seen, so big that players and fans couldn't believe their eyes. With his size, he looked unstoppable, like a real-life giant built for basketball. But instead of domination, his story took a shocking turn. What went wrong? Let's find out. The NBA has seen freaks of nature before. 7-footers who move like guards, giants with wingspans that stretch across the paint. But what if I told you there's a kid out there so massive, so absurdly tall, that the league doesn't even know what to do with him? We're not talking about a Yao Ming or a Manute Bol. This kid is pushing 8 feet tall. That's not basketball height. That's Guinness World Record height. Meet Abiodun Adegoke, listed at 7 feet 11. Let that sink in. Taller than Taco Fall, taller than Manute Bol, taller than anyone who's ever been drafted, played, or even tested in the NBA. At his size, he doesn't need to jump to dunk. He doesn't even need to stretch to block shots. Just raise his arm, and you might as well forget about getting the ball anywhere near the rim. Sounds like the ultimate NBA cheat code, right? So why isn't this guy already in the league? Why aren't teams lining up with contracts, desperate to grab the tallest player the game has ever seen? That's where the story gets messy. On paper, Abiodun should be the most talked about prospect alive. He's young. Or at least, that's what we've been told. He was first spotted in Nigerian leagues, then connected with MPAC Sports Academy, a Dubai-based program known for developing young talent. At first, it looked like he was being groomed for a pro career. But the deeper you dig, the stranger it gets. Because here's the controversy. Is Abiodun really the age he claims? MPAC says he's a teenager, growing even taller in the past year, pushing into record-breaking territory. But critics say otherwise. Some insist he was already playing high school ball years ago, disappeared, then re-emerged under a new age. A grown man pretending to be a kid, using his size to dominate weaker competition. Sounds insane, but it wouldn't be the first time basketball has seen age fraud scandals. And then there's the silence. You'd think a player close to 8 feet tall would be plastered all over highlight reels, YouTube clips, Instagram posts. But outside of a few staged videos and promo shots, there's barely any actual game footage of him. Where are the full matches? Where are the official stats? Why does the so-called elite league he plays in never release games? The last time real footage surfaced was back in 2019. That's not just weird, that's suspicious. The NBA doesn't just ignore size like this. Scouts travel the world to find talent. Joel Embiid came out of nowhere from Africa and was in the league within years. Manute Bol was discovered in Sudan and immediately grabbed by American colleges. So why not Abiodun? Either he's the greatest hidden prospect in basketball history, or the biggest fraud we've seen in years. And that's the problem. This isn't just a story about height. It's about secrets, cover-ups, and whether the world's tallest teenager is actually who he says he is. Here's where the story turns. From bizarre to flat-out suspicious. Abiodun's size alone should have had scouts tripping over themselves to sign him. But instead, what we've got is smoke and mirrors. And most of that smoke? It comes from MPAC Sports Academy, the group supposedly developing him. Let me break it down. MPAC brags about accountability. They say every single training session and practice is filmed. They claim every game is recorded. But when you actually go looking for footage of Abiodun, you hit a brick wall. Outside of a handful of clips on Instagram, there's nothing. No full games, no box scores, no proof he's really dominating competition. It's like his career exists only on social media. And it gets worse. The so-called elite league that Abiodun is supposed to star in, completely invisible. No public games in 2020, none in 2021, none in 2022. The only videos they keep pushing are recycled hype reels, the same footage re-uploaded over and over again as if he's actively playing. That's not how legit leagues operate. That's how scams operate. A respected journalist in Nigeria swears he saw Abiodun years ago, playing in high school as a senior. Then suddenly, poof, the guy disappears. Fast forward a couple years, and here comes teenage Abiodun back on the scene, claiming he's younger and ready to crush the competition. If that's true, this isn't just fishy, it's fraud. A fully grown man posing as a kid just to stay in the system and milk hype. Think about how wild that is. Basketball has had age scandals before, sure, but never with someone this tall, this impossible to ignore. If Abiodun really is pushing 20 or even older, the NBA's silence makes perfect sense. They don't want to get burned by a PR disaster. Drafting a supposed teen only to find out he's been gaming the system? That's career suicide for any GM. And let's not forget his game. Height is impressive, but mobility matters in today's NBA. From the limited clips we've seen, Abiodun looks stiff, slow, and awkward. He towers over everyone, but towering isn't enough. His size is wasted. He becomes a sideshow, not a superstar. So what's really happening here? Two ugly possibilities. One, Abiodun is exactly who Impact claims, a freakishly tall teen, and the Academy is just incompetent at showing real proof of his progress. Or two, he's older than they say, the Elite League is a smokescreen, and the NBA already knows the truth, that this isn't the next great big man, it's the next big lie. Here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. The NBA doesn't trust giants. Sure, height is an advantage, up to a point, but once you start pushing past 7 feet 4 inches, the story almost always ends the same. Broken bodies, short careers, wasted potential. Think about it, your almost always ends the same. Broken bodies, short careers, wasted potential. Think about it, Yorga Murashan, 7.7 seconds, lasted just a few seasons before his body gave out. Yao Ming was supposed to dominate for 2 decades. Instead, constant foot and ankle injuries forced him out after 8 years. Even Taco Fall, at 7 feet 6 inches, couldn't stay on an NBA roster despite being a fan favorite. His speed and endurance simply couldn't match the pace of today's game. The truth is brutal. Human bodies aren't built to handle that much size. Every jump pounds the knees, every sprint shreds the joints, and once injuries start stacking, no amount of height can save you. That's why when scouts look at Abiodun, they don't see an unstoppable cheat code. They see a ticking time bomb, a player one bad landing away from crumbling. And it's not just health. Basketball has evolved. The modern NBA isn't built for statues under the rim. Centers now dribble, shoot threes, and switch onto guards at half court. Look at Jokic, a 7-footer running offenses like a point guard. Look at Wembanyama, 7 feet 4 inches, but moving like a guard, hitting step backs, blocking shots on the perimeter. If Abiodun can't move like that, he's not the future. He's a relic. But here's the wildest part. We don't even know if he's been given the right coaching to find out. With Impact's shady lack of footage and the endless age drama, he's stuck in limbo. Too big to ignore, but too risky to believe. If he really is 7 feet 11 inches and only 19, he should be breaking into pro leagues in Europe, Asia, or Africa at the very least. Yet, there's no sign of that. Just rumors, recycled videos, and silence from the organizations around him. So what does this all mean? Simple. Abiodun Adegoke may be the tallest basketball prospect alive, but he might also be the most wasted. The NBA has no reason to gamble on a player who could collapse under his own weight, or worse, be exposed as older than he claims. Fans want to see a freak of nature on the court, but franchises want reliability, mobility, and proof. Right now, Abiodun has none of that, and that's the tragedy here. We could be looking at the biggest what if in basketball history, an almost 8-foot giant who should have been unstoppable, but instead is trapped in a storm of doubt, secrecy, and broken trust. Too tall to be ignored, but too flawed to be embraced. Because sometimes, being the biggest doesn't make you the best. In fact, in the NBA, it might just be the one thing that keeps you out.